talking about now or later. A challenge with the now or later argument, when we talk about recidivism, we talk about K-12 savings, when we talk about special ed, even special ed, is that from a political point of view, you know, you come into office, you really have 2 to 3 years to start demonstrating that difference to help the voters understand that you should be reelected. That's the reality of it. However, I think there's some arguments that you can get some quicker, demonstrate some quicker gains. So I have a question for the authors or anybody else that knows about the evidence on this. But the early intervention program is a good example. The early intervention program in the state of New Jersey is costing the state upwards of $100 million, and it keeps increasing because of increased referrals, in spite of the fact that the referral quality has improved, meaning kids should be referred, and the intensity of the attention given to these children. And this is in spite of a flat birth rate for the last decade in the state. Well, I truly believe that if you start this process a lot earlier, you're not going to need as many referrals to early intervention, or when you do, the intensity won't be as much because that brain will be stimulated, parents will know how to stimulate, child care providers will know how to stimulate their children, and therefore you can actually have relatively, you know, in a year or two, you start to see a downward trend. So I'm curious if you've seen that. And the other quick gain is going to be a lot of parents, because of inability to get quality child care education, places they can trust to leave their children at, and know that they're going to do as good a job as they would at home. Parents one of the parents, often the mother, will opt not to work. So the other quick gain is that you're going to actually increase, in the short term, people in the workforce. So I'm just curious what the authors in particular, and Dr. Morrissey looks like she has a response to this.
It's interesting you laid out. Arturo is actually laying out, and I see the other hands up, is making the argument that the sell, could and should be different than pay now or pay later. It's an investment as opposed to paying for the prison costs, et cetera, et cetera. Your response?
Sure. I think again, it's not an either or. I think it's pay now and pay later is what we're doing because of the early intervention. We do know that that high quality early childhood education reduces special ed referrals. And I don't know an exact study on early intervention per se, but I'd imagine there's a pretty big decrease. I mean, it benefits kids. It's something like early childhood education benefits all children, but it benefits the most disadvantaged the most, and that's key. So it raises all boats, but especially those who are most vulnerable. I'd also say with that childcare is a 2-generation intervention, and so we focus on the child development argument in this book, but we do also mention it's a workforce support. You know, if my childcare falls through, I don't get to work. Just like if transportation falls through, I don't get to work. It's an infrastructure piece. And so you invest immediately and you get immediate results in terms of increased labor force attachment. And for paid leave, for example, we know that moms in particular who take paid leave are more likely to return to their jobs and stay at their jobs. They're more attached to the workforce. It promotes economic stability in the family as well as employment stability.